Hey guys, it's Frederik from the FWX podcast. I want to continue talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and in the last episodes I did for the MCU, I talked about Infinity War and Endgame, and there's a bunch of background information necessary for those movies, and I'm gonna do that now with the movies that fill that background information in. So I'm going to talk about the characters, I'm going to talk about the story, I'm going to use the pictures from the actors, I'm also going to talk about the actors on occasion. And the movies I'm referring to, by the way, are these ones, the Guardians of the Galaxy. And I'll start with this one, with Volume 1 first, and then in the next video, Volume 2, and in the one after that, Volume 3. But first, before I begin, I will give you the disclaimer, and I'll start by saying that while I am an okay English speaker, my English is not perfect. That means that I will still, or might not, flub a word. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And so, that is the reason why that might happen. Occasionally, I might also swear, so that's a warning in case you're not okay with that. Also, on occasion, I might have to look something up, or I will lose my train of thought, or I will get ahead of myself, and those are all reasons for any awkward pause that might happen. So, best you know that. Also, my text is on the screen, so that means that if I'm reading to you, the screen will get brighter and I will get brighter as well. And so, let's start off talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. Okay, so first off, very cool picture right here. It's a poster with all the main characters. I will point those out who is when we get specific about them. Alright, so the movie and the story starts in 1988 in Missouri, where we see a young Peter Quill. So a younger actually, this younger version is played by, I hope I say his name right, Wyatt Olive. That's him right here. He plays the younger version of Star-Lord, or Peter Quill. Yeah, I almost said Chris. I almost said Chris Quill, and the reason for that is because during the movie, because we start with a prologue in 1988, but then we switch a bit later to the current moments, the recent moments, and in those moments, Star-Lord and Peter Quill are played by this fella right here, Chris Pratt, who's become quite the leading man himself. You'll know him from these movies and also several voice roles at this point. You have Garfield, you also have the Lego movies, you have the Jurassic World movies as well. And okay, so that's the little bit of information you need to know about this firsthand. So we start in 1988 in Missouri in America, and we get introduced to Peter as he is waiting outside a room in a hospital, and he is asked into the room close by while he is listening to music. And before we go any further, I want to point out for a moment that this movie and the second one and the third one are chock full of old but very good music. And I say this as old because in relation to me, because I'm a millennial, I'm 32 years old. So timeline wise, this would be before I was born. So that's why I say that. Okay. But back to the story, back to the characters. And so Peter is listening to some music right here. And he's listening to I'm Not in Love by 10cc as he is waiting outside the hospital room. And here his grandpa walks out of the hospital room and also asks him to take the headphones off so that he can hear the person that is in the hospital bed, which is his mother, who has been suffering from brain cancer. And I'm thinking if I maybe have a picture of that man, because I've seen that figure before. I'm checking for a moment. Maybe I have him in a different picture. And the reason why I'm saying I have him in a different picture is because he shows up in number 3 at the very end. Again. But no, I don't. So, anyway. So, Peter's grandpa takes him into the hospital room where his mom is because she wants to talk to him. And she has a gift for him. And she gives him this little present. But then she starts having issues again. She's crashing out. And his grandpa, Peter's grandpa, takes him away again. And Peter, of course, is very saddened about the fact that he's about to lose his mother, basically. And so his grandpa leads him out of the room and out of the hospital too, and he goes a bit away until all of a sudden the thing we wouldn't think would happen in our real lives happens for him, and he is taken away by a spaceship. He's effectively abducted by aliens. And these aliens, in this case, are the Ravagers, which is a group of thieves and smugglers that are led by Yondu Udonta, who in this movie is played by this actor right here, Michael Rooker. Should bring it a bit closer for you to see. And Michael Rooker is a close friend of the director of this movie, James Gunn, and has shown up in other movies of him before. The only other movie I've seen besides the Guardians movies with Michael Rooker was a kind of B film for Netflix with Adam Devine, where he played I think it was a detective or an FBI agent like that. But anyway, so that is our prologue for this movie, and we go back to the timeline as it is for Marvel in 2014, as Peter Quill, now fully grown into a young man, an adult man, in, of course, his Chris Pratt form right here. And he has his wardrobe, by the way, that is specific to the Ravagers. And you see this in the picture too. He has kind of like a red cloak, almost a little in the style of any other space pirate in other media, like for instance Malcolm Reynolds in Firefly. And there's a reason why I'm saying this specific reference, because I'll bring that up later. You know what? I'll show you the poster for the second movie again, because here you see it a bit better. You see him in his garb of the Ravagers, and he has these special kind of pistols, I'll just call it, and because they shoot lasers, of course, because he's in space. So he's a real space cowboy, as the trope goes. like a Malcolm Reynolds or a Han Solo or other similar characters. And so Peter finds himself on the planet of Morag, which is a known location in the Marvel comics. And here he is looking for something special, a mysterious orb. And by the way, here we get another song as he is getting closer to said orb. And that is the song Come and Get Your Love by Redbone, which came out in 1973. And Peter Quill is, of course, a child of the 80s. Yeah, so he knows his songs from that time. And he greatly enjoys this one as he is getting closer to said orb, as I said before. And he is jamming out to this song, and it's a very good song, of course. And this shows in an interesting way what he is like is that he's very on point, very mission oriented, but he's also very childish and foolish in a way. Because while he takes things serious and has a big heart, he also knows how to break free from that by his love for music specifically. Okay, so let's continue here. And as Peter's getting closer, he's getting some attention as a couple of renegades are getting closer to him as he is about to take the orb out of its place. And this orb is held up by a, I'm going to call it a stasis element. And so Peter uses a kind of anti-grav item to get the orb out of its place. And as he's doing this, he's confronted by those same renegades who are led by, in my opinion, one of the hardest working actors in Hollywood, who does not nearly get enough credit, and that is this guy, Jimon Hunsu. And I hope I said that right. And he plays Korath, who, while he is a renegade, he does work for someone. And that is Ronan the Accuser. And Ronan the Accuser is played by this man right here, Lee Pace. I know him from another very interesting fantasy role as Thranduil in the Hobbit movies. And so Lee's specifically good for this role, despite having to wear one heck of an outfit. He has this very weighed down outfit, and he's got this giant hammer, like a war axe. No, sorry, war hammer, more likely. That is not a reference to that other kind of fantasy universe, by the way. He literally has this kind of huge staff, and there's this more specific name, but I'm forgetting the name, of course. And so Korath and the two henchmen that he has with him attack Peter at first. And there's this cool moment between the two of them as they're sort of bantering and negotiating at the same time. And Peter says, "You might know me by another name, Star-Lord." And so Star-Lord is Peter Quill's codename in this sector of the universe in the MCU. And he is this famed outlaw. And he has based this character that he portrays on all the music that he knows from Earth after he has been away from it for so long. But that music that he listens to, that we also get to hear as watchers of this movie, really informs his character, but also the characters around him too. And so Peter uses that same item that he used the orb with to get the two henchmen that Korath has with him out of there. And by the way, Korath, to give you an idea of what he looks like, is kind of generally very gray outfit, and he has this big alien gun that he has on him, and he has like a part of a computer almost in his brain. That's the image that we get to see from him. And so Peter escapes with the orb, and he makes it back to his ship, which also has a name, and that is the Milano. And I believe this is named after another thing. There's a lot of references, a lot of Easter eggs in here. Ah, here's the reason. So there's an actress named Alyssa Milano, and so Peter Quill named his ship after her. That's why. So he must have had a crush on her back when he was on Earth and saw movies and stuff like that. Or not. they used the name for the movie, is what I mean. And so Peter escapes with the orb. He gets on his ship, and he jets out of there. And while he's getting out of there, he gets a call from the man that used to raise him in space, Yondu Udonta. And he, well, as I said before, Peter is kind of a space cowboy, and he also kind of has this kind of playboy image of himself, as we get to see that there was a woman with him on that ship called Berit, and she has, and this is just for the sake of you to imagine what she is like, but I'll just say it right here, right now, and she's pink, like bright pink skinned. And there's another reason for that I'll point out in a moment too. Maybe learn more about the other characters. And so Yondu, like I said, played by Michael Rooker, calls Peter and discovers that Peter has gone there before him, and closely after this issues a bounty for Peter's arrest, for his capture, not for his arrest, so they can get him for a lot of money. And we get this next scene with Ronan the Accuser, like I said, played by Lee Pace. And we get to see two other people involved. And here's where I said, and I'm going to rephrase for a second. Here's where I mentioned why Berit was pink-skinned. Because there are other characters in this movie that are in other colors, have other skin colors, and like bright skin colors, I mean. And so we meet as Ronan is talking with someone that he has captured. And by the way, Ronan himself has another skin color. He has a kind of the blue you see behind me right here. He has that kind of skin color in this movie, because he's a Kree, which is a kind of alien in the MCU. also based from the comics initially. Yeah. And so we meet him for the first time fully. We get his introduction. You'll see the montage of him putting on his suit and his kind of head attire. It doesn't really look like a helmet, but it's more draped on him, kind of like a pharaoh almost. And we get to meet two of his accomplices. And for instance, Gamora, who is played in this movie by the incredible, I'm gonna show it even better, Zoe Saldana, and also Nebula, played by Karen Gillan. And those are two actors we know from other sci-fi works. For instance, Zoe Saldana is best known, I think, from the Avatar movies. I do mean the big blue aliens, of course. The Na'vi from James Cameron's movies. And also from the Star Trek movies where she played a role. And several other movies, of course. And Karen Gillan is, of course, best known as her character in Doctor Who. Amy Pond, I believe, isn't it? Her name is. Don't shoot me, but I've never seen a single episode of Doctor Who. But that is what I know her from. Also, from the more recent Jumanji movies. She plays a role in that. As a video game character inside this Jumanji game. Because it's different in the new ones. Anyway, so... Oh yeah, by the way, as said, they have different skin colors, so while Ronan is very blue, and so is Nebula, by the way, and she also has a lot of cybernetics on her, because she's been experimented with by someone we see in a moment as well, who I have also talked about in one of my Avengers, well, not just one, but the last 3 Avengers movies. And of course I'm referring to another different skin-colored person that is very well known from the Marvel Comics, Thanos, the Mad Titan. And so, it actually just ties in directly into this movie. They are Gamora and Nebula are 2 of his adoptive daughters, and are also part of the Black Order originally, like in the comics as well. And so we meet them for the first time, and I believe actually it is Thanos himself who kind of zooms in from a kind of technology that we haven't seen before in the MCU, as he tasks them with going to get that orb that Peter Quill just got from Morag. And also a little tidbit about Morag is that, well, virtually nothing is standing anymore from what used to stand there, because when we see the scenes of Peter, he kind of uses something to give us a view of what things used to be like on that planet. So something terrible must have happened, and that he got into this special kind of temple, almost in Indiana Jones kind of reference, like the Temple of Doom, indeed, from the Indiana Jones movies, but then the Temple of the Power Stone in this case. That was a reference to something later. Okay, so we meet them. They get the idea and the plan for getting the orb for themselves. And so Nebula is sent to retrieve the orb from Peter Quill from their side. Both for the Kree that Ronan serves and for Thanos himself, as he has slowly started his hunt of the Infinity Stones. And I will tell more about that in a moment. Okay, so both Thanos and Ronan send Gamora after the orb, while Peter is about to sell it on the planet of Xander, which is the capital of the Nova Empire. And this obviously instigates, or really sets another character up for the future, which there has been a long time project in place that maybe might have this character. And I'm talking about Nova, of course. Either Richard Rider or Sam Alexander. Yes. So, and a little bit personal, I would love to see that project, of course. Because the Xandarians and their planet and their culture is all in the name of, well, I'll tell you a bit more about that in a second too. So Peter is on the planet of Xandar about to sell the orb to someone, to the broker. I think I may have a picture of him. And no. But the broker is a kind of an antiquities kind of dealer. And he also has he also is an alien kind of figure, a humanoid. And so Peter's rejected by this guy at the moment he mentions Ronan the Accuser, of course. And he is pushed outside and he has to deal with Gamora, who is standing nearby. And, well, being a man, of course, Peter tries to flirt with her and that doesn't go well. And so she ambushes him and is about to steal it. And while this is all happening, we get the introduction of two more characters that become later part of the gang of the Guardians of the Galaxy, because it's not just the name of the movie, it's the team name that the characters form. And we get the introduction of a large walking, talking tree named Groot, who is played in this movie, or rather, voiced, I would say, by another huge actor. And there's, of course, this man right here, Vin Diesel. And the other one, Rocket Raccoon, who just prefers that you call him Rocket, is a little grumbly, loudmouthed, angry little raccoon that has been cybernetically engineered. And he is also voiced by another great actor right here, Mr. Bradley Cooper, who voices the character. Also, importantly enough, the person right next to him in this picture, Sean Gunn, also James Gunn's brother, who plays another role in this movie, Kraglin, is also the stand-in for Groot on set. So that's why I'm saying this, of course. And so, we get their introduction. They are looking around because they're bounty hunters. They're looking for the latest score so that they can get credits. Not credits. Units is the currency in the galaxy, apparently. And so the two of them are bounty hunters and they're looking for the latest score. And they find Peter Quill as he is talking to yet another girl in his true playboy kind of ways. And here we also get a split-second cameo, well, couple of seconds split cameo from the creator of Marvel, the main creator of Marvel, Stan Lee. And Rocket Raccoon calls him a Class A prevert, which obviously should be pervert. So, anyway. Okay, so as Peter has just survived the ambush from Gamora, he's on the run, and she's pursuing him, and we get a fight scene between him and her, and we kind of see immediately here that while Peter is not a trained assassin like she is, he does know how to handle himself in a fight, and he uses those pistols that I show here, and he also has like I don't know what the proper name is, but he has the. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'll look it up quickly. Features. All right. So those weapons that Peter holds actually do have a name. They're called quad blasters, and they have two separate triggers that control two different barrels. So the ones you see in those pictures of him, where he's holding them up. And they can be used by firing when you trigger. Yeah, making. So, I'm gonna rephrase for a second. So, Peter has those things that are called quad blasters that shoot lasers from two different parts of this weapon. That was what I wanted to mean. Okay, so the thing I wanted to mention is that Peter, while not an assassin like I just said, does know his way around a fight, and he, while not completely matches Gamora in a fight, he can hold his own, basically. And he uses those quad blasters that I just said, and he also has these. It's sad I don't know the name, but basically he can fly around on some fueled. There should be a name for it. Well, basically, like. You know what? I'll try to reference something else. So, a little like how Iron Man moves around. And he has that kind of like attached to his legs, to right above his feet, effectively. And so he's allowed to fly. He can fly with those things. And actually, in effect, in terms of design, those things kind of look like the weapons he uses, only they're attached to his legs. But as we see in this fight, he can take those off of him, and actually, he does that in a moment where he puts one of those things on Gamora, and she flies away with that thing. And right as this happens, we do have that funny action moment where Groot, in his large form, just wraps a giant knapsack around Peter, and he's completely surprised by it, which is very funny, of course. And Gamora rushes back over. She gets him out, but he shoots her with his quad blaster. And either right before it, I think it was right before it, that she starts to fight Groot with what looks to be a retractable sword. And she starts to take off his limbs, and both his arms and a leg, I believe. And so that makes, yeah, I think it was before. So she starts to attack Groot, takes off his limbs, that makes the knapsack fall, and makes Peter crawl out, and he shoots her with his quad blaster, which makes her writhe in pain. He gets out, he starts to run away, and then we get Rocket, who in his true fashion does his thing with like also a kind of retractable kind of weapon, and he shoots Peter with it, and he also has this amazing line Like, I live for the simple things, like how much this is gonna hurt. And he hits Peter right in the back, and we get to see Peter as he like Gamora just writhes as a kind of electricity is spread among him. And so as this fight has just broken out, it also is just broken up again by the Nova Corps, who are prominent in this movie, of course, because they're on the planet of the Nova Corps, of course. And maybe you can see this well or not, but you have this kind of spaceship right here, and that's the one that belongs to them, to the Nova Corps. Okay, and so they're broken up. They are pulled aside. We get a bit more information about all of them, but the things I basically already said in their introduction, we get their introduction as they talk about who they are, of course, as they're checked in, like the police would with criminals on our real Earth. And of course, we get their introduction, Peter Quill from Earth, but aliens call it Terra. And also that there's something special about him apparently. And then, of course, Gamora, daughter of Thanos, has cybernetically enhanced assassin. And then, of course, the introduction of Groot as a large humanoid plant that is basically the muscle for Rocket. And the Rocket himself, of course, who is an cybernetically enhanced raccoon. But he doesn't yet know what exactly that is. And I'm going to talk about that in the third Guardians of the Galaxy movie episode, because that movie is almost completely about him. And so the three are detained by the Xandarians. They're put away in a prison called the Kiln in space with an asteroid belt around it. And they're brought in, and here we get a bit more bantering between them. We get some funny lines. For instance, there's this little moments between Quill and Rocket where he says, something along the lines of, "You wouldn't know better than to stalk like that, raccoon." And Rocket responds, "What's a raccoon?" And Quill says, "It's what you are, stupid." So that immediately informs us that Rocket does not know what exactly he is. And like I just said, that third movie is all about Rocket and himself. And so we continue in this movie and in this story, and we meet with them as they start to associate a bit more. And in this prison, everyone is very impressed with the woman that has just come in, Gamora, because everyone knows that not only is she the daughter of Thanos, and by proxy of him, she is responsible for a lot of killing. And so they're all crazy, and they want to kill her, of course. And a bit later, those other aliens that want to kill her confront her, and they hold up knives or daggers to hold them up against her to try and kill her, of course. But they're just still at the threatening phase. And one other individual in the prison steps up, and that is someone called Drax the Destroyer, who is also a big tough alien that is introduced to us, and he is played in this movie by the person between Groot and Nebula. On my card right here, on my picture right here, by the ex-wrestler Dave Bautista, who has become a fully fledged actor in his own right, by the way. I've also seen him in. There was that interesting Spy Kid film that he did. That was pretty good. And there's a second one of that movie now too. And I'm thinking, what else do I know Dave from? He also played an interesting role in one of the James Bond movies, the more recent ones with Daniel Craig. And he's also been working with M. Night Shyamalan, of course, on the Cabin movie. Okay, let's continue. So we were introduced to his character, Drax the Destroyer, who is a big tough alien who is very much a broken man, a broken alien man who lost his wife and his daughter. And he finds himself responsible. He feels the obligation to kill her. But Quill Peter has overheard all of this, that Drax really wants to kill Gamora because she is not only associated with Thanos but also Ronan, and Ronan is the one that killed Drax's wife and daughter. And so he wants to use her to get to Ronan. But Peter steps in here and says, no, let's not kill her right now. Let's use her to get to Ronan. And for the time being, Drax agrees with Peter to get him closer to Ronan. But here, Gamora also reveals that she is about to betray Ronan, as she is not ready for him to use what is in the orb, as she has learned fully about the orb. And in fact, she already has a contact, someone that wants to buy the orb from her. And 4 of them work together to escape the prison. And we get a lot of interesting scenes here, a lot of action as they're escaping the prison. And this isn't like any other prison escape movie moment. I'm being specific here about moment because that has become kind of a trope in itself. Prisons in pop culture, of course. And so Rocket has the plan. He's cybernetically enhanced to be a tough criminal, but also a very smart being despite his diminutive state. And so he's talking about the plan. He's telling them what to do. But then Groot goes to one of the things that they need to have, and basically gets the whole place into a panic and a frenzy as they're all off to get everything else. And we get most of the prisoners back to their rooms while they're fighting against guards. And Drax in a moment also decides to step in, and he dismantles one of the guards, and then quickly another one after that, and he tosses a weapon to Rocket, who kind of has his let's call it machine gun rah moments, where he's atop of Groot, who is now back into his full size after losing his limbs because of Gamora, and he yells out, "I am Groot," because that's all he says, of course, but that has different meanings depending on what's happening in the moment. And Rocket yells out, "Oh, yeah." And so he has that machine gun rah 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 moment as he shoots at the guards and what look to be a different kind of drone with turrets on them, shooting at them as the two work together. And as that is happening, Peter goes and gets some guy's leg, while Gamora goes and gets the kind of prison system that has been embedded into the guards so they can control the doors of the places and can regulate the movements of the prisoners. Got myself out of a jam with that one. And so I'm gonna drink for a moment. Right. And so they all assemble back on the tower in the middle of this prison, in the meeting area. And this has been the bigger troops start to come in. We get bazooka-like weaponry from the Xandarian guards of the kiln as they try to blow the growing guardians to smithereens. And Rocket has the plan all figured out, is doing his best as he can use the system of the prison to his advantage, being a very good engineer and innovator, ingenious mind of the group. And so he has this little trick where he polarizes the gravity in the air, making everyone that isn't in the little tower that they're standing on go up. And so the thing closes, they're all together. We get some more bantering and bickering between Drax and Gamora. And they get to the place where their clothes have been stored. And they all get them. Peter says, "Go to the Milano, my ship." And they go there. While Peter, for a moment, goes back as he realizes that something of his is missing. And those are his headphones and his Walkman that he uses to listen to music. And I will correlate the moment from before with what's happening now. We get to hear another song, and that is a very, very well-known song, "Hooked on a Feeling" by Blue Sweet. And it played before when Peter, Rocket, Groot, and Gamora were first entering the prison. And now here again as Peter takes his Walkman and his headphones back from whatever creature decided to take it from him. Yeah. And this continues to play as Peter heads back to the Milano while everyone is waiting for him. And that is where we go next, as the group also goes to a place called Nowhere, which is a huge place, sort of a city, basically, but this is a very oddly shaped kind of city because it's in a huge, well, let's just go with myself for a moment. This is shaped like a face, a head, basically. It is the sliced off head of a celestial. And a celestial is, as I've talked before in my Avengers coverage, especially in the, I think it was in the Endgame episode or the Infinity War episode, a celestial is basically a creator of the universe. And so, nowhere is a place in space, a city, unlike anything else, because it's in the shape of a big ass celestial's head. And so the group is going there to go and meet up with Gamora's contact. And while this is happening, we see Ronan meet up in a kind of space Zoom-like thing with Thanos to discuss the fact that Gamora has now betrayed them. And as the group, that is not yet a group, arrives in nowhere, Gamora tells about this place in that it is a city planet that is inhabited by merchants and thieves that are living in this place because there are a lot of rare materials in there that are worth a lot of units. And so as they arrive in this place, they have this brief moments as they're walking to the place where the contact is at, where a bunch of kids, street urchins, come to them and try to ask for money, probably, in this case, maybe units in their hard value in coin kind of version. And Peter warns them and he says, like, keep your wallets close. So I'm assuming that there's a hard value version of a unit. And so they go to the place where the contact is at. And there's still some time, and Drax asks, well, what are we supposed to do waiting here? And so the guys go to a kind of casino-like thing where they meet with... Oh, I just bumped my mic. Sorry. Anyway, so they go to a kind of casino kind of thing where they... where they have a kind of gladiator kind of game with one of the more fauna things of this sector of the universe, and what is called an Arloni, and which is basically like something between a kind of general woodland kind of creature mixed in with kind of a lizard sort of thing. And to cut back for a moment, those are the same kind of things that we see in the moment that we meet Peter Quill for the first time in his adult version, played by Chris Pratt in this movie. He was singing along into the same kind of creature, I think, because this one looks a bit different. The one that he's holding on to kind of looks like a squirrel at the same time too. But anyway, and so that's a little callback, I think, to that moment. And Drax seems to win this, and he also has this little moment where he says, like, let's pour more of this liquid into our bodies. And Rocket responds with, well, that's the first batshit thing you're actually right about. Something along those lines, Rocket says. And then there's a little fight between the two of them, between Drax and Rocket, as Drax insults Rocket, calls him a name that he is not okay with, kind of in the same way that the N-word might have been used, or another word used as a slur, basically. That's kind of how it feels, how it reads to me in that moment, that Drax insults Rocket with a slur, I think. Because everyone calls Rocket names that he doesn't know, basically. And then we get the reveal of the the contact that Gamora was looking for while she was off for a moment with Peter, as he was telling her all about music and the people on Earth that make music. And he was referring to Sam Cooke, an older musician from all the way back. I'm showing my age here again. And so, yeah, and I'm saying that because I haven't heard of that name. I've heard of an Ashley Cook, but that's a different artist. Okay, and so the group is gathered together to go and meet with this contact, and we get the reveal of the collector, or his real name, Tannelir Tivon, who is basically the person that started populating this area with all these thieves and merchants and all the like of them. And this person is um, portrayed in this movie by another well-known actor, and that is this man right here, Benicio del Toro, who you will know from Sicario and other movies, of course, but that's the one I know him from. And he gives another interesting bit of information, exposition about the orb in itself as he's opening it up. It all talks about the origin of it and of the thing that is inside. The thing that Thanos has been looking for so long, an Infinity Stone. In this case, the Power Stone. And so, Tennelir says that in the beginning of everything, at the very origin of the world, there were 6 singularities, and these were all formed into smaller items, and those became the Infinity Stones. And at one point in time, a group was trying to get them under control, these little ingots, really small kind of things, but that can do a lot of damage apparently. And I'm assuming that's the group that he was part of. I haven't covered the 4 movies yet, but in For Ragnarok we get to see another kind of person like the Collector, and I'm referring to Jeff Goldblum's character in that movie, because I think they were part of a group. Okay, so let's continue. So we get more information about the Infinity Stone, an item of immeasurable power that can be used by powerful beings that wield it. And then we get another little action scene, a bit different than, not really a fight, but something major happens as Tender Tavon has his own helpers, and one of those is another pink-skinned lady called Karina, who is taking care of her sister when she wasn't doing well, but while helping Tender Tavon. And she gets a hold of the Power Stone as they're looking away for a moment because Tavon is distracted by what Groot is, what he might possibly be. And so Karina, shows what the power of the Power Stone is. And we get a huge explosion that engulfs the collection of Tivon. And as everybody is rushing out or is protecting themselves from the falling debris, we get also a moment. It's a brief moment. We get to see Cosmo, the cosmonaut dog, running out, who later becomes a part of the 3rd movie, by the way, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And also, to get a little back for a moment, As the group was broken up before during the fight with Drax and Rocket, Drax got a moment alone for a moment with someone that was communicating to somebody else to get the message out that he is looking for Ronan. And as the group is rushing out of the place of the collector, Ronan's troops meet up with the group as everything starts to come together. Yes. And so sorry, little pause right here. So Ronan arrives along with Nebula, of course, again played by these actors, Gillan and this guy Lee Pace, who plays Ronan. And so Ronan faces off against Drax. They have a fight, or well, it's supposed to be a fight, but actually, it's just Ronan knocking Drax's socks off. I'm saying that wrong. What I mean is, he mops the floor with Drax. Yes, it's really not a fight. It's really Ronan showing off just how fucking powerful he is in that moment. And at the same time, we get a chase between the other characters as they man the pods of this place. Pods meaning a kind of escape shuttle kind of thing that is near indestructible material, that is made of near indestructible material. And I'm saying this because in a moment, just a bit later, Peter tells the crew that these things are indestructible, although they don't have any weapons. And so Rocket uses that moment to go and ram a ship of Ronan's fleet that has been tracking them. Yes. Sorry for the background noise. So we have the chase scene with them. And we have Nebula going after Gamora. And Nebula also has here a moment where she says, out of all our siblings, you were the one I hated the least, to Gamora. And she blows up the little ship that Gamora was on. Which leaves Gamora floating into space as they're well outside the Nowhere's vicinity. And Ronan, in his big ass flagship, the Dark Aster, manages to capture the orb as it is outside of this ship right now. And Quill and Rocket see this happening, and Quill basically is afraid she will die, so he gets out of his spot to go and help her out. But not before calling up his friend Yondu for a moment, and he gives him his location. There's another name for this. Coordinates. That was the name I was looking for. So Peter gives Yondu his coordinates, and as Peter, yeah, so he gives the coordinates to Yondu. He gets out of that little ship. He goes to Gamora. He puts his helmet that he uses on her so she can survive for a bit longer while he supposedly gives his life for her. but they're quickly picked up by the Ravagers and their ship, and they luckily survive, which leaves Rocket to fly back to nowhere, where Groot has fished Drax out of a pond filled with a yellow kind of liquid, and has just resuscitated him by poking two long fingers into him, which makes him vomit up whatever was in that tank. And Drax has this little moment Drax has this little moment where he says that all the rage is basically a cover for what happened to me. That I am trying to do better, but sometimes it gets too much for me too. And of course, Rocket, being a cynic and grumbly and challenged in his emotional nature, does not accept that, and he says that, yeah, well, everybody has situations like that, and he little funny moments. He starts to kick the grass that is nearby, and he says that, "You're making me kick grass," and that continues them onto the Milano, Peter Quill's ship, and they start to go after the Ravagers as they're holding Gamora and Peter, of course. Which leads us to the three of them meeting up with the Ravagers, attacking them with a ship, with Peter's ship, with the Milano, as Rocket has Drax on top of the ship with a large weapon that he has designed himself, called the Hadron Enforcer, which must have some kind of deadly element of energy that could be shot. And so Drax uses that thing to shoot at the ship of the Ravagers to get their attention. And Yondu in that moment is very surprised to see such a little creature commanding to him. And he slips up, "What the hell?" And just as this was happening, Yondu was beating up Peter for betraying him and getting the orb before him. But Peter manages to convince him that I just did what you did. We're Ravagers. This is what we do. We steal with fight. We are scoundrels. We're scum. This is what we do. And Peter proposes that they use Gamora's intelligence and cleverness to get the drop on Ronan and get the orb back so that Yondu can now have it. And at this point, he already also knows what is inside the orb, because he got that information from the broker on Xander. That was a scene from earlier, which is also very funny, where he is looking for kind of those little kind of figurines or action figures of sorts that you might find in like a special edition of a magazine or some kind. Then we get that funny scene with him and Kraglin and the broker from... Yeah, well, it happens earlier, but that's what the information that Yondu got is from. So, they decide to team up. They have a plan. They get new garb. They get Ravager garb. And they start to plan to take over the Dark Aster, the ship of Ronan. And the goal, of course, is to not let Ronan use the Infinity Stone on Xander, as he has now embedded the stone to himself and to that special kind of hammer that he has, as he's willing to annihilate the Xandarian culture and the planet itself. Also, I dropped an Easter egg in this sentence. I said annihilation because that is a later comic in from Marvel that is tied to the Nova Corps and to Richard Rider, who becomes the first superhero called Nova. Yes, that's why I said that. So here, the group meets up. They team up. They get their uniforms. They contact. Well, Peter contacts the person that got them detained earlier on Xandar. Also, just briefly, I need to say that as Ronan got that Infinity Stone for himself, he also contacted Thanos through it because he now knows what it can do and threatens to go after Thanos after he is done with Xandar. And Nebula is still with him, of course, and she's just a little bit shook by this, and she says, like, so after you're done with Xander, you'll go after my father. And he says, you object to this? And she says, no, because you see what he has done with me. Being all machinery kind. Because part of Nebula's story inside this story is that for every time that she had to fight Gamora, a piece of hers will be replaced with a piece of machinery. And so Nebula has years and years of resentment towards Thanos, and so she's pretty okay with the fact that Ronan wants to kill Thanos after Xandar. Yeah. Okay. I'll take this moment briefly to say that this whole movie is about parental issues, basically. You have Peter, who doesn't know his true heritage yet. You have Gamora and Nebula that have been adopted by a mad tyrant, the Mad Titan in this case. You have Drax, who lost his family to the Dark Forces, to Ronan, and to Thanos. You have the unknown origins of Rocket and Groot at this point still. And so, this movie and the other two films are also just massively about parental issues, both daddy issues and mommy issues at the same time. And it's very much about found family. And actually, this is an interesting moment to segue to that part because as the group gets their gear, their weaponry, and their shit together. Yeah, I'll just say it like that. Once as they get their shit together, Peter confronts them with the fact that, look, we're a bunch of losers who haven't got a thing right in our lives. But together, we could do something that is meaningful and has purpose. And that ties all of them together. And we get a little tender moment with them. And so, here's where we continue with the story 2 as Peter, with the Guardians and the Ravagers, contacts the Nova Corps so that they can fight Ronan's troops on the deck on the Dark Aster, his flagship, as they work the plan out that they have come up with. And so the plan is to, of course, defend the planet while laying waste to the troops, and the Xandarians also come to their aid as they use their I'll show this picture again. You have those very star-like spaceships that they use as they try and contain the Dark Aster. But here, we get Ronan and what the Infinity Stone, the Power Stone specifically, can do when it's attached to any kind of weaponry, and he obliterates the forces around his ship, destroying the fleet of the Nova Corps. And in the panic and the chaos of that moment, while defending Xander itself, the group gets into the ship, into the Dark Aster, and they go after Ronan, of course, because they have the part of the plan is also just to take Ronan out. And they fight themselves through the ship. We get a bunch of funny and good action scenes with them. We have Peter and Rocket showing off what they can, and Drax too. And then we also get the scenes of Groot handling these thugs. And there's a specific moment I want to say, because you have him kind of stretch his arm like Mr. Fantastic does in the Fantastic Four movies. And he uses that to bludgeon a lot of these fools on the ship. I'm thinking the Dark Aster is manned, of course, and has many ships. And I'm thinking for a moment, because there's a tactic that Ronan uses in this moment too, where he allows his ship to he has many ships to deep dive the city and basically create a tumult on Xander. And so the group fights themselves to him. We get the moment with Drax as he is the one that gets to kill Korath. And we get a little callback from before where Peter said that this is the way to mention to someone that you want to kill them, with the finger around the neck. And so Drax does that in the moment that he kills Korath by doing that thing again, and he snaps the little computer-like thing out of Korath's head, ending his life. Okay. And they move on while Gamora is dealing with the power of the ship itself, and also comes across her sister Nebula, and we get a kind of sword fight between them, which I always find cool. I'm a big fan of duels, and especially sword fights between characters, and we get a bit of that here in the more sci-fi elements between a blue alien and a green alien. Both ladies, of course. And so that's good. And she manages to get Nebula out. And Gamora tries to convince Nebula to join them. But Nebula says, no, you're all crazy. I'm getting out of here. And she does. And she gets a ship from the Ravagers and gets the fuck out of there. Which leaves the group to confront Ronan, finally, as Gamora breaks the panel that is controlling the energy of the ship, the fuel of the ship. And so we get the confrontation with Ronan, and Drax is holding on to the Hadron Enforcer this whole time, and Peter takes this thing over from him and shoots whatever is in there at Ronan. And it looks like they have defeated him, but out of the shadows and the explosion, Ronan steps forward, seemingly not damaged at all, because he has an Infinity Stone. And here uh, they kind of find themselves at a stalemate, as they did get their job done. They had the plan and it worked. But now they're kind of stuck with Ronan on the ship. But then Rocket, who was in another ship, slams that ship into the Dark Aster, which makes the thing crash land onto Xander. And we get another scene with the group, and here Groot decides to give his life. And he holds them together in a cocoon, in a wooden ball. And he gives his life for the group. And of course, Rocket is saddened by this because he doesn't want to lose Groot, of course. And for the first time, Groot says his phrase a little differently. He doesn't say, I am Groot. He says, we are Groot. And so the ship crashes to Xandar in the city. And everything is spread all over the place. The danger seems to be over. But then Ronan emerges from the wreck of it and is about to destroy Xandar. And has a little monologue. A kind of villain monologue, of course. And he says something in his native language as well. I'm assuming he's about to say, I accuse you. And so that is the moment that a distraction takes place that really throws Ronan off guard, as Peter Quill starts to sing along to the music in the background of his ship, as it is also stuck inside the Dark Aster. And he uses this moment. You know what? I'm gonna look up for a moment which song it was. By the way, I'm gonna mention a couple of other songs here for a moment. So when I was talking about the Guardians getting out of the prison, there was another song playing called Escape, the Pina Colada song by Rupert Holmes. There's also Cherry Bomb, when they get the montage of the group preparing themselves for a battle they think is gonna make them lose their lives. Here's a song that plays in this moment when Peter is distracting Ronan. And that is Oh Oh Child by Five Steps. And he is singing, and he also starts to dance. And of course, it's funny, which really distracts Ronan. And he yells at Peter, What are you doing? And Peter responds with, I'm distracting you, you big turd. You turd blossom. I'm distracting you, you turd blossom. Is exactly what he says, yes. And as Peter is doing this, Rocket got the Hadron Enforcer back. I think it's that thing. And Drax uses it to shoot not at Ronan himself, but at the Warhammer that he's been holding on to for this whole time. And here, the projectile hits the hammer, and the Infinity Stone goes a flying, and Peter jumps after it, and he holds on to it. And And so he gets it, and he is somehow able to hold on to it. And then the others, Gamora, Drax, and Rocket, come to his aid, and they hold on to him. And we see them in this, in the color of the Power Stone, in like, again like an orb kind of thing, together. And here's where the phrase where the movie actually comes from. So Ronan yells out, "You're human. How?" And Peter Quill responds with, "Because we're the Guardians of the Galaxy, bitch." And he blasts Ronan with the powers of the stone, reducing him to rubble. And as soon as that is done, Gamora clogs the stone up with a similar kind of orb design thing that they're using to hold the stone in. And Peter then is confronted by Yondu, who says, like, "Time to pay up, boy." And Peter does seemingly give him an orb that he's been holding on to, but actually he's put the orb with the Infinity Stone away, and it has given Yondu the other thing. And so he thinks that Yondu thinks that he has the stone. And so he is glad to have it, and he goes away with the Ravagers, while the group of the Guardians of the Galaxy is now assembled together and is now a world-saving group. I'll say it like that. Yeah. By the way, as the Ravagers are leaving, we have Kraglin, once again, show the actor, Sean Gunn, say to his boss that it's a good thing we didn't deliver Quill to his father, as he was looking for him, in fact. And the Guardians now meet up with the Xandarians with the Nova Corps, and they have a nice surprise for the group, as their criminal records have been expunged. They're completely free to come and go on Xander if they want to. And here we also get the reveal of what exactly is up with Peter, that he manages to hold on to an Infinity Stone like that. And so the reveal is also big for Peter, as he did not realize that he is not 100% human. He is both human, but he's also something else. And I will talk about that in the next video, of course, because that is all about him. And another part is that I'll give you the last scenes of the movie. I'll say what it is. So Peter finally decides to open that present that he got from his mother all those years ago, and that is a cassette tape, which is full with all of his favorite songs and her favorite songs that they shared together. And so another thing that the Xandarians have done for the group in response for saving them from Imponen. In one of the other things that the Xandarians have done for the Guardians to thank them for saving them from the impending doom that Ronan was, they have rebuilt the Milano, and so that the Guardians can go freely. Completely freely. Because they no longer have any criminal records on Xandar. Which is a good thing. Although we do have Uh, yeah, whatever. So we get the end scenes with, for instance, Drax sharpening his knives. And here's another song that is taking place at the same time, and that is Ain't No Mountain High Enough by Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell, as it is ending. And by the way, the cassette that Peter's mother had for him also had a card with it where she calls him her little Star-Lord, which is how he got that name, of course. And so this cassette tape is also titled Awesome Mix Volume 2. And so one of the songs of that cassette, Peter actually plays on a ship because he's able to play music on it. And that is Ain't No Mountain High Enough by Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell. And that is where the movie ends. Also with Baby Groot saved. Yeah, I already said Baby Groot because Rocket actually got a twig from the supposedly sacrificed Groot into a jar with dirt, and we see that Groot sort of comes to life again in now a miniature version of himself. And one last thing before I exit on this scene is that we get to see in a post-credit scene that the Collector now sits in his destroyed archive with two of the fauna that he was holding on to, which is a canine cosmonaut named Cosmo, who we will later see in other installments of this trilogy, and also an anthropomorphic duck, played, by the way, in all installments by Seth Green. I have a picture of him. Just a sec. Here we go. So Seth Green plays Howard the Duck in all installments in Marvel, including the What If animated series that they have made. And so that is where the story ends for now. So, first of all, I want to thank you for listening and watching me talk about the story of the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. You can like this video, of course. You can also subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of content. And please also, you can let me know what you think in the comments. And also share this with friends and family, your colleagues at work, or maybe just here online on YouTube, what you think. And if you think I'm doing a good job, for instance. And so thank you for all of that. And also for the massive support I've been getting. Well, massive. Well, anyway. So thank you for all of that. And I will see you in the next video where we cover Volume 2 of the Guardians of the Galaxy. See you until then. I'm Frederik of the FWX podcast. See you in the next video.